Former President Bill Clinton sat down with our Washington executive editor Al Hunt. That one-on-one interview focusing on how America can regain its edge and grow its economy. The two men sat down on the second day of the Clinton Global Initiative in Washington. They spoke about the balance between creating jobs and lowering the deficit.
Oh, I don't like the deficit. I hate debt. We had 4 surplus budgets when I was president. But you can't balance the budget in a busted economy. For one thing, you won't produce enough revenues. For another, you have to spend too much money. We had at the lowest points of this recession, we've had as many as 1 in 7 Americans on food stamps. I'm not against them trying to get together and trying to agree on a long-term plan to bring the budget back into balance and to get this debt down. I don't like how it was doubled in the 8 years after I left office, before the financial meltdown. But that needs to be a long-term plan. Even the Bowles-Simpson report, you know, that the bipartisan commission the president appointed, they made it clear that we shouldn't even start this stuff until the economic recovery was absolutely certain.
They said a year. Now it's more problematic. Would you go 2 years before you started?
I would.
You would?
You know, and in terms of its impact on the markets and confidence in our future, and even our ability to eliminate the debt, it really doesn't matter. You watch in the United Kingdom, where they said the biggest problem in the world is the deficit, and we're going to go for austerity, even though interest rates are 0 and it doesn't cost us any money to borrow money, and there's no economic activity in the private sector. If it doesn't work, and so far it's not, there's a real chance that their deficit will actually go up because revenues will go down even more than spending will be cut. So, you know, where do we start next year or the year after next? That's not as important as that they debate a long-term plan. And if they would think about it like that and relax and not fool with the debt ceiling business, that's not a good thing to do. Then we could go back to focus everybody's attention on how to grow this economy. You know, we've had 2 Republican governors here, Mitch Daniels and Haley Barbour. We've had Pete Peterson here, who cares desperately about the long-term debt, and we've had the American labor movement commit to put together $10 billion to put people back to work in infrastructure. Once you get to focusing on what you can do to put people to work, you can bring people together, and unless we do that, we're never going to balance the budget
I'm going to
anyway.
get to some of those particulars in a minute, but you mentioned don't fool around with the debt ceiling. Standard & Poor's said this morning that if they don't pass the debt ceiling, they're going to lower their credit rating in the U.S. to a D, as in default. I mean, is there a possibility that could happen, and what would be the implications? Some Republicans say it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, well, that's because they've never lived through it. There's a reason that, as far as I know, we're the only major country in the world that even asks our legislative body to vote on this, for a simple reason. It's important the American people understand this. When you vote to raise the debt ceiling, you're not legitimizing further deficits. You're voting to pay what you owe for what has already been done. And therefore, if you don't, and you don't honor your debts, you can't borrow any more money. I mean, in other words, we're borrowing money now for spending that's already been approved legally. And the Republicans, they think they got the president and the Democrats over a barrel because they said, we just won't raise the debt ceiling unless you do exactly what we want.
They do, don't they?
Not, depends on whether we stand up to them. You know, the idea that their idea of a compromise is if they only get 80 or 85 or 90% of what they want, and the Democrats don't get any of what they want. And most Americans don't consider that a compromise.
And you can watch more of Al Hunt's special interview with former President Bill Clinton tonight at 9 p.m. New York time, right here on Bloomberg Television.